It is one thing to talk about God's mercy. It's another thing to experience it. St. Alphonsus preached the infinite merciful love of our God that was poured out through the sacrament of confession, or as it is called today, reconciliation. But does an encounter with God's mercy make us more merciful? Perhaps we need to see how mercy is a key component of the actions of many of the saints. If you know the story of our founder, St. Alphonsus, you will know that he left behind a vibrant ministry in Naples to look after the poor shepherds and farmers in the hills outside Naples. And he did so because he saw their great need for a living faith in our loving God. Many other examples abound. St. John Bosco saw the orphans and abandoned children on the streets of the cities of Italy. He not only began schools, but also famously told the members of his order, quotes, to always treat children gently so they might know the tender love of God. St. Damien gave his life to rebuild the lives of his beloved and abandoned lepers on the island of Molokai in Hawaii. And Mother Teresa saw the dying, the poor, and the abandoned on the streets of Calcutta and brought them the gifts of caring for body and soul. And of course, the Blessed Virgin Mary is called the Mother of Mercy because she knows God's mercy and gathers our prayers before the Father of us all. These saints are examples, I would say, of those who had already experienced the mercy of God and now, instinctively, turned a merciful eye to those most in need. Saints, I might add, are often the ones who proclaim themselves the greatest sinners, which I believe is because those who are closest to God are also most aware of the damage of their own sins. But then they are also most aware of God's mercy to themselves. However, one does not need to be a great saint to learn from God's mercy and be merciful in turn. I look around at faith-filled people, and I see numerous examples of mercy at work. I recall an elderly lady who had taken it upon herself to look after 3 other more elderly ladies in her neighborhood, and she explained it simply to me. They have no family, they have no one to care for them, but God cares, and I intend to be God's unworthy instrument of this care for them as best I can in their need. Or I look at a gathering of volunteers who prepare meals for the Out of the Cold program at St. Patrick's Church in Toronto in winter. They don't just throw something together. They prepare meals that they would lovingly serve to their own families at a special celebration. Their attention to these meals is a gift of their culinary skills to those who are often left to eat stale bread or worse. Then I think of the wonderful religious sisters who for centuries have taken on 2 major tasks, especially for the poor and abandoned. They brought education and they brought health care to the people who had none. We today tend to take both those things for granted because we have in Canada a universal health care system and a universal education for our children, often with many opportunities for further education. I do not think that most of us have any idea how hard these sisters worked, often in the poorest parts of cities or in the towns and villages of the pioneers, especially out west. And only God knows what our country would have been like without the basic education that makes us fully literate, or how many of us would not even be here because our ancestors would have died for the lack of adequate health care. And today, we also see a tremendous response to refugees who come to our country often with nothing, after war and violence and terror have made their own homes impossible to live in. Faith communities, and here I am not speaking just of Catholic or even Christian communities, but also Jewish and Muslim, Hindu and Buddhist. In this country, these different communities have opened their arms, their homes, their purses, and their time to welcome these otherwise abandoned people to refound their homes and their families and their lives. I could also add an entire day's talk about the kindness and mercy that palliative care doctors and nurses and others provide for the dying, but I will move on. All of these examples, those of the saints and those of regular caring people, I am calling acts of mercy. Not because some people take pity upon others. Rather, merciful people see with the eyes of God. They see their brothers and sisters in need and who are suffering and who are marginalized by war or poverty or mental health issues, and they look for ways to bring healing and dignity to these people and these situations in which these people find themselves. St. John Paul II called this solidarity, meaning that we are one with those in need, not over and above them and condescending to be kind. No. Caring people know very well that they have already been blessed by God, and they are now prepared to share these blessings with those who, but for the grace of God, could be us. Look around your world and see the mercy that is being lived. Notice the child who befriends another child that others have ostracized. Notice the office worker who sticks up for a co-worker when gossip threatens her reputation. Notice the laborer who helps a neighbor because she is a neighbor in need. Notice the generosity of people who help handicapped children go to a summer camp. When mercy notices the needs of others and responds, then God is at work. It is what Jesus called the kingdom of heaven or the kingdom of God. God works through human instruments. And when we human instruments have ourselves been touched by God, then we can be, as St. Teresa of Avila said, the arms, the hands, the feet, and the heart of God, changing our world through mercy, which is the first great act of love.